It's double the De Niro, as we have warring crime bosses, both played by Robert De Niro in this movie that underperformed at the box office, but now you can check it out on HBO Max. Let's talk about the Alto Knights. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for The Alto Knights. This is streaming now on Max and did not do very well at the box office. It was one of these blink and you'll miss it films. It made less than $10 million with a budget of about 5 times that. So this was certainly considered, an underperforming film, a box office bomb perhaps even. But you can check it out now on Max. And we've got double De Niro here with the dual roles of warring crime bosses, but also a pedigree for this movie that includes the screenwriter of Goodfellas and Casino. So why did this movie fail so spectacularly at the box office? Well, we will talk about all of that here in just a second. First, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're a subscriber for Dan Reviews It already, thank you so much for that. I love it when you guys return and check out my content. But if you are not, please consider subscribing and click the notification bell too. I do try to post just about every day, so there's always a lot going on here on the channel. Of course, if you like this video or comment below, that helps the channel out as well. All right, so let's talk about the Alto Knights. So yeah, this was written by Nicholas Pileggi, who wrote Casino. He wrote Goodfellas. He was an executive producer of American Gangster with Denzel Washington. He was an executive producer of The Irishman, which was one of the more recent Scorsese films, also featuring De Niro. So you would think that this movie, all right, well, you've got 2 De Niros, you've got the screenwriter, all these great things. Why did no one care about this at the box office? And, why is it not that great of a movie? Because I didn't like it either. And I think the reason is, well, critically, it didn't do very well. So maybe, people saw the ratings or whatever from the reviews and was like, oh, we're going to stay away from this. But also, it's curious that this was even released to theaters because I feel like the last few, pretty big gangster movies were released on streaming. Certainly Scorsese's The Irishman is included in that. And it just, look, I don't watch trailers. I don't know how the trailers made it look or anything, but it doesn't really differentiate itself enough from those other projects that I mentioned that Pileggi was involved with and other just sort of, mafia classics. So let's start with just the basics here. So we're in New York City in the late 50s for most of the movie, but we've got these 2 crime bosses, Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, both played by De Niro, like I said, and they're both trying to get control of the city's streets. They were best of friends at one point, but, things have not played out for them to remain friends. So, a series of betrayals and jealousies, place them against each other at odds permanently. And, their specific fight will help sort of shape the future of the mafia in America. And these are 2 real guys, so from what I understand, this movie does actually have some authenticity with who these guys really were. They're people I'm not super familiar with. I've definitely heard the name of Genovese, but Costello, I'm not quite sure. But in any event, I think the reason that this movie is not a success is in part because it lifts so many things from other mafia films. And I'm not even that much of a mafia expert, or anything like that. Yes, I've seen a lot of the movies. I've not seen Casino actually, but yeah, I've seen Goodfellas a couple of times. I've seen all these other movies I've mentioned, and this doesn't add anything that we haven't already seen, from the back and forth dialogue to the shootout sequences, and it just isn't giving us anything. If there were no other mafia movies, then sure, this would stand as, a testament to, how well the genre can work and all of this. But once you've seen it 10, 15 times over, this movie just doesn't add anything. So let's talk about the double De Niro of it all, because I think that is going to be, a sticking point for some. So De Niro, look, he's obviously ingratiated himself in the mafia culture with cinema. So having him play against himself, having him play two different mafia members. Look, I think it worked to the point that De Niro is a good actor, and I will say that the makeup team did a good job, sort of differentiating the two because. It looks a lot better than, for example, in The Irishman when they were like de-aging him. That it looked off-putting, to be honest. And I don't love The Irishman as a movie, but in general, it's better than this. But that de-aging technology didn't work for me in The Irishman. It looked not right. It looked a little off. And so it was off-putting. Here, the makeup team definitely differentiates between the two characters. However, the performance from De Niro and the script don't really differentiate that much. I'm not saying that I found it hard to tell the difference necessarily, but the guys aren't different enough that you could have De Niro playing off each other all the time and get this sense that these are two completely different characters out of it. So I think the movie would have been better to just have somebody else play one of the gangsters and then have him, play the other one. I get it. It's gimmicky, and we've certainly seen a lot of double acting lately. Sinners, for example, is a great example of that. But Michael B. Jordan was playing twins in that. So, okay, that makes sense. And the other movies I'm thinking of, like Legend, where Tom Hardy played the Cray brothers. I don't think they were twins, but they were brothers anyway. Here we've got two completely separate people, both with De Niro, doing the De Niro thing. And the performances are okay, but with a script that doesn't differentiate enough and action sequences that don't differentiate enough from other films, this movie just comes off as a completely redone, retread of 10, 15, 20 movies previously. The other people in this movie, I will say, Deborah Messing actually surprised me a little bit. She plays Frank Costello's wife, and that was a little bit refreshing. You don't see Deborah Messing playing a lot of dramatic roles. I thought she did okay here. You also have Cosmo Jarvis as Vincent Gigante, and Catherine Narducci as Anna Genovese, and our favorite from Sopranos, well, not our favorite, but from Sopranos, Michael Rispoli, playing a close friend of Frank's. So, you've got people that are certainly, in the Italian world, and it makes sense for the casting, but just that double casting of De Niro didn't really work for me. Even though it looked better than The Irishman, this movie is far worse, I would say. And this is directed, by the way, we talked about the writer. The director is Barry Levinson, who has a ton of great movies under his belt. Now, he doesn't have a lot of mafia movies, but, Rain Man, certainly, a great film. The Natural, Good Morning Vietnam, Diner, Wag the Dog, which De Niro was in. And recently he produced this great miniseries called Dope Sick on Hulu. So not a ton of like mafia stuff though. And so I don't know, that may have been a factor as well. He's just sort of lifting big chunks of action sequences from other better films. So let's leave it there. I will give the Alto Knights a D+. If you are curious though, you can check it out now on Max. And it runs just about 2 hours, which is kind of short for a mafia movie, but I will say it feels longer. It feels like a good 2.5 for sure. All right, thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. I'll see you next time. Bye.